Hello, everybody. SEC, SEC, SEC. That's right. It's SEC night on the show, and Mike and Eric will join me in studio to discuss a loaded freshman class, transfers coming into the conference, as well as key returning players from all around the land, and we'll slot every team into the high, mid, or low tier of the conference to close things out. Listen, I promise there will be less trash thrown during this SEC preview than during the Texas Georgia football game last Saturday. I promise. Recording live from somewhere. This is one and done.
Get out the insurance cards, get out the copays. The office is open, my friends. Brought to you by drroto.com.
It's time once again for everybody to come aboard that Green Screens Media train. Welcome to One and Done. Bienvenidos a todos a One y Done, your fast break of college basketball información. We are powered by drroto.com. Some say the world's, galaxy, even the universe's greatest website, the drroto.com. Some are saying it. I know. Some are saying it. I'm your sometimes humble host, the conductor of the aforementioned Green Screens Media train, and I go by the name of Jay Heinrich. Find me on X at Dr. William Cannon. Follow me, and I will smash that follow back button. I am blessed this evening to be alongside two of the absolute best in the business to do it. Three deep in the studio tonight. And I'm starting with El Capitan himself, the captain of the Green Screens Media ship. He does the ship, I do the train. We'll talk about what Eric does later. Follow him on X at MC Holland 34. The OG Money Mike, Mr. Mike Holland. Mike, what it do?
Yo, man, I am. I'm excited. 2 weeks away, man. Two weeks away from. We're gonna have scores this time in a few weeks. So I'm thrilled. It's gonna be that time. We're gonna be talking bets soon. We've only got a few conference previews left. All the hard work and everything just kind of leads up to this moment. I've been getting excited, been charting starting lineups. I think I've got 16 teams down right now, so got a few more to do after the show. But yeah, man, just trying to get an edge anywhere and everywhere we can. So appreciate everybody checking us out in the off season, and hopefully we'll just keep the train rolling as we go through the year.
We are going to keep the train rolling, and we're going to keep it rolling with the guy who's last in the intros, but he's first in sus corazones, in your hearts, the Baron of Bread of Green Screens Media, who you can find in those Twitter streets at Fantasy Nav. He's Eric the Blue. That's Mr. Eric Romoff. What's happening, man?
Man, we out here living LIVIN, counting down the seconds, minutes, hours. They go to the almighty dollar, which is where we generate all of these funds through these college basketball streets. You've been riding with us all off season long. You know that we are the sickos out here covering every single conference except for those dweebs in the Ivy League. Tonight, we're jumping into those big boys. We know that we got some breadheads out here that stand for the SEC. We want to see this live chat living up to its name. We want to see it extra lively tonight. So hop in there. Let us know who your team is. Let us know what you think about the coverage that we have, anything we missed, anything you agree with, anything you disagree with. This one's going to be a fun one.
It is going to be a fun one indeed, and it's already fun in the live chat with, you know who is going to be in there. It's Peanut Butter Posse hanging out in the live chat. Hang out, exchange barbs with Peanut Butter Posse at your own risk. But, of course, it's all in good fun, and we appreciate one of our most active chatters. And then, of course, our guy Mike Hoochie. That is correct. The Big Ten is the only conference that matters.
Is that of the Ohio Hoochies?
Yes, I think I think of the Southern Ohio, the Hoochies of Southern Ohio, actually. Michael Hoochie, indeed. Good stuff there from everybody in the live chat. Let's keep it rolling and hit those notification bells as well as the old like and subscribe buttons as well. You don't want to miss anything that we're doing. Yeah, we're wrapping up our conference preview series. We've got the SEC tonight, and then El Numero Uno, El Jefe, as they say. The Big 12 will wrap it up next Sunday, most likely, this coming Sunday, the 27th, is when we should be hanging out and talking Big 12. But tonight, it is SEC. I don't even know if we should. I mean, this comment section is going to be the liveliest I feel like it has in a while.
We see you.
You know, we see you, Mr. Brooks, talking about football. And hey, we're basketball tonight, of course, but go back and forth about anything that you want there in the live chat. We'd love to see it, and we'd love to talk about the SEC last year. We always like to do a little bit of a callback to what happened last year. In the regular season, Tennessee narrowly captured the crown at 14-4, holding off Auburn, Bama, Kentucky, and South Carolina by a game. Very tight at the top. And then in the conference tournament, Auburn came through after big wins over South Carolina, Mississippi State, and Florida to get that conference tournament title. 8 bids, gents, in the NCAA tournament. Quite the difference than the conference that we did last night, who only got 3. But 8 bids here in the NCAA tournament for the SEC. Tennessee, a 2 seed, Kentucky, a 3, Auburn and Alabama, 4s, South Carolina, a 6, Mississippi State, an 8 seed, and then, of course, those fighting Texas Aggies of Texas A&M, a 9 seed. Alabama made the Final Four, and then, Kentucky lost to Oakland in the first round. Alabama made other than Alabama making the Final Four, Kentucky lost to Oakland in the first round. Auburn lost to, Yale? Check your, do not adjust your screens. That is correct. Auburn lost to Yale in the first round. And then Tennessee lost to Purdue in an absolute smashing game in the Elite 8. So mixed bag, obviously, there in the NCAA tournament last year for the SEC. The 4th-rated conference in the country by KenPom last year, with 11 of the 14 teams last year in the top 100. It's time for the headlines. As we get to our guy, Eric, the live chat, of course, is rolling. And so are the headlines, Eric. You know we like to hit on coaching changes. What else do you have for us as well in the headlines?
Yeah, we will start with coaching changes, as we are one to do. A couple of marquee swaps in that regard. Kentucky makes news and bids John Calipari adieu. He heads off to Arkansas. According to some in the chat, he takes a lot along with him. He was backfilling there for our guy Muss, who's heading out west. That created a spot for Kentucky to bring in noted alumni Mark Pope, friend of the program. If you want to hear some of his thoughts on coaching in today's college basketball landscape, you can check out those playlists right here on the YouTube channel. But he is heading back to Kentucky to build his program anew and back to the top of the mountain, at least as he aims. Vanderbilt also said bye-bye to their former head coach, in this case, Jerry Stackhouse. They bring in Mark Binghamton from James Madison. Other headlines: this conference is one of the many that is expanding. Texas and Oklahoma both join. They make it 16 teams in total. Both of these schools have solid programs over the last couple of decades, just going to strengthen an already pretty strong conference here in the SEC. You know, for me, you know, kind of looking for some of the macro themes here. Retention is huge in terms of this conference, right? One of the few conferences where some of the top players actually stayed put and returned to this league. We will hit on some of those guys next, but it's really going to be a good mix of top level retention and a pretty marquee transfer class that's coming in. So going to be a battle between the SEC and the Big 12 for the number 1 conference in the land. So let's get to it. Jay, you want to jump into some of these player spotlights?
It's definitely going to be back and forth. There's an actual conversation to be had this year between the SEC and the Big 12, whereas we have felt, that the Big 12, and most people have felt, that the Big 12 has just been so far and away ahead for a little bit now. The SEC is making a little headway there in that conversation for Sure. Hit those like and subscribe buttons. Thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you for hanging out so much. We appreciate you. We know our SEC peeps. Man, this is what the SEC does to me. It just gets me all hyped up, excited to talk about this fine conference of basketball. So make sure you talk about it with us in the live chat, but also that you hit those like and subscribe buttons as well, as we will get to the player spotlights that our guy Eric was talking about not too long ago. First off, we'll talk about the portal later. We'll talk about the freshmen later. But how about the guys that are the SEC veterans, the ones that have been sticking around and doing big things? And we're going to start with a duo in Alabama. Roll Tide. A guy that we kind of expected bigger things from, transferring over last year in Grant Nelson. And then, of course, first-team SEC player Mark Sears, the guard that averaged 21.5 points, 4 assists, and a steal and a half last season for the Tide. 44% from three. That ain't too shabby. But, yeah, both of these guys, Mike, mid-major stars before, now centerpieces for a Power 5 contender.
Yeah, and I mean, a tale of two stories here for both of these players, right? But we know the upside, especially with Sears, and we want to see it from Nelson a little bit more, although it shined through last year. But obviously Sears just really phenomenal in the second year with the Tide. Surprised that he didn't go to the draft. I don't know that his stock's going to be any higher, but he's back for his 5th year. Just an excellent floor general. But he'll light you up on the scoreboard. Obviously, you can see that by how well he was able to score the basketball last year. And yeah, we'll see. We'll see if he can. If he gives you an encore, you'll absolutely take that. With Nelson, I mean, he's back for his 5th year as well. My man just had foul issues last year. The outside shooting wasn't there. But in the biggest moments, man, he really shined bright. 24-8 against North Carolina in the Sweet 16, and then 19-10 against UConn in the Final Four. If he just continues to improve in that area of 3-point shooting and then just stays on the floor, like he'll be able to rack up, those stats that'll really jump out to NBA execs because he's got the athleticism. Really one of the things that they want to see is obviously that he can knock down the three ball there. And that if he's able to do that, I mean, now we just got, I mean, not only is Alabama going to be even more of a monster, but he's going to be able all over NBA radars. So looking forward to both of these guys coming back, man. It's going to be a tough duo to stop for sure.
I'm going to have to agree with Peanut Butter Posse saying Grant Nelson looks like he could grow a mustache in the 8th grade. I absolutely feel like he was the dude that had the whole, he was rocking it. He was definitely rocking it. Bleed Blue hopping in as well. The winningest program in college basketball history, the Kentucky Wildcats. Go Big Blue. That's what we like to see there in the old live chat. Let's keep that rolling for sure as we roll on now from the Tide tandem to a duo down in Florida in the backcourt here, Eric. Walter Clayton and Will Richard. Clayton was 2nd team all-conference last year, 17.5 points, 2.5 assists, 37% from deep. And then Richard, 35% from deep, right there at the Heinrich line, 11.5 points per game. Coach Golden really got the Gator program moving in the right direction behind these two, Eric.
Yeah, he did. We'll start off with Walter Clayton, a player that transferred in last year from Iona, one that we largely thought would follow Rick Pitino over to St. John's. Instead, kind of shocked the world, decided to suit up for the Gators. Now he's had to take in even more responsibility by sliding over to the point in this Gators offense. It's a bit of a gamble, but it could pay off big time with, a potential hike in ceiling for this program. Love that his game was as good as the competition was when the competition was at its toughest. His scoring number, it could take a slight dip as he's, stepping into more of that ball handler type of role. But, with the uptick in assists, could be in double conversation pretty frequently. And then I bet you didn't have Will Richard here on as fourth player on our spotlight, right? Kind of a bit of an upset, especially after putting up 11.5 points last year. But man, he was a big part of this offensive juggernaut from last year's team. Coming over from Belmont a few years ago, took 203 3-point attempts, also shot over 50% from 2-point land. So the guy is just absolutely wired to score. He's a bucket. He can go out there and fill it up. Love what the Gators have with this backcourt duo.
It's an impressive one for sure. So many guards down there in the state of Florida in college basketball. And these two right here are going to play a huge role on their team in this conference and maybe even into March, depending on how Florida does. We'll see how it goes. Peanut Butter Posse enlightening us in the live chat, of course. Is the Kentucky Wildcat actually a Bobcat? Is that for truth? Are you reporting that, Peanut Butter Posse? Because I don't know. You could be. I mean, sometimes you come in. You got to understand. Sometimes you come into the chat and it's just a mountain lion. Really? Well, maybe so. Maybe so. There's going to be some mountain lions in this conference this year that are going to take over, and we're going to get to them in our tiers section at the end of the show. We'll let you know who those teams are going to be. But before we do that, we got rid of the duos here, a couple of important ones returning to the conference. And now we're going to give you that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th. We like a 5-pack around here on one and done. And here are 5 players returning to this conference that we feel like you need to know. Johnny Broome. Oh, my God. How many more years? I mean, Johni Broome, how many more seasons are we going to – is he a senior this year? Forgive me for forgetting what classification that Broome is here. But how many –
feels like he's been in college for forever. But yeah, forever.
Right? Johni Broome, though, the big man, 16.5 points, 8.5 boards, 2 blocks per game, 35% from 3. What doesn't he do? Well, that'll get you first team all conference right there. And then on the first team, Wade Taylor – A&M averaged 19 points, 4 assists, 2 steals. Zakai Ziegler, Defensive Player of the Year and first team all-conference, 12 points, 6 assists, a steal and a half per game. Josh Hubbard, the Mississippi State guard, made the all-freshman team last year in the conference, 17 points and 36% from deep. And then Matthew Morrell, the Ole Miss guard, 16 points, 2.5 assists, a steal and a half per game, 40% from deep, good enough for second team all-SEC. So what do you guys think? Let's go with Eric here. Broome, honestly, he's going to set it off for this team. What do you think he's going to do for Auburn this year and maybe anybody else you want to cover in this 5-pack?
Yeah, when you were running down the list, you posited what can Johni Broome not do? Apparently, play more than 25 minutes is the answer to that question. And even though he's getting very limited run, I think that has less to do with his ability on the court and more to do with Bruce Pearl's unwavering desire to torture all DFS players out there. The impact that this kid had, despite the fact that he was playing 25 minutes, is just wild, right? Like if we ever see a 30-plus minute season from him, he's going to be not only in the conversation, but probably a favorite for the Wooden Award. That is the caliber of player we're talking about here. Terrific rebounder, fantastic rim defender, right? On the offensive side, always been a guy that can dominate down low. Last year, though, in particular, saw a bit of a step forward in terms of his ability from range. He increased his 3-point percentage from 29% right up to that Heinrich line, 35%, making him arguably one of the most complete players returning in all of college basketball. And then I want to jump down a little bit. I want to talk about Josh Hubbard, a 3-star diamond in the rough from last year. 5'10", just an absolute dynamo at the point guard position. Took off last year and really never looked back, right? The numbers were eye-popping, 11th in the country in shot rate, less than a 10% turnover rate, which is just bananas for a true freshman adjusting to the collegiate level. Like, that is not normal, right? I know Mississippi State fans are absolutely ready for round 2. You can chalk me up in that category. I'm going to be watching Josh Hubbard very closely this season.
We talk about the the transition from like a D2 or JUCO ranks to, a Power 5 team. And Hubbard did it from high school as a freshman last year. It was pretty impressive.
He made it look easy.
For sure.
It was wild.
He had a good time with it for sure. Mike, 3 more players on this list. Let's start with Morrell.
Yeah, so Morrell, another, peanut butter. A lot of fifth-year players that we've been talking about, and hopefully this will be, the last of its kind, talking about Chennai Broom, but also Matthew Morrell here. Put it all together last year, 6'4", absolutely can get buckets, ton of experience. He's the face of the program. Like, if you're Chris Beard, you basically just pencil him in as your starting 2-guard, and you pretty much feel confident in what he's going to give you on a nightly basis. Zakai Siegler, one of the best stories of the year last year. I mean, getting back on the court after the ACL injury the prior year. Yes, he has been around forever as well. One of the top, if not the top two-way point guard in the country. Like, expectations are going to be super high for this team and for him. Obviously coming off of Defensive Player of the Year, and going to obviously need to do a little bit more to get them, to that last stop that they want to get to. But definitely excited to see Ziegler coming off of, almost 2 years away from the injury. And then Wade Taylor, really a surprise pick last offseason for preseason player of the year in the SEC, but he went out and proved that he's one of the best in the country. Obviously one of the best in the league. And even with the slight dip in efficiency last year, like, he's going into year 4, as a bona fide star. So the Aggies obviously hoping that he's going to take them to some new heights in his final year. So, yeah, we talked about the retention piece. Like, these are some really good players in the SEC.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Very rarely did we cover a conference with that many players coming back that were first team and all freshmen, and second team, all second team last year as well in the conference. It's in the age of player mobility, as our guy Eric likes to say, very rarely do you see it, and we see it in this conference. Don't worry, though, we will get to the portal here, right around the corner. Broom, Hubbard, Morrell, Ziegler, and Taylor. 5 guys you need to know sticking around the SEC. Hop in the live chat like our friend Lonnie just did, saying UConn will win the NCAA championship. 3-peat, Lonnie. Is that right? I didn't think
Look at Mike's face. Look at Mike's face.
Hey, I'm not betting. I mean, I will bet against them, but maybe Coach Hurley will ask where we have him ranked, like he did.
Yeah, it's not going to
happen. Where do they have it? Where do they have it 2 years ago?
I mean, I think isn't that the answer, Jay? Right? Like, you would probably still take the field over them, but they're on the short list of teams where you're considering a them or the field proposition, right?
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair for sure. Good stuff, Lonnie. Thank you so much for chiming in. We appreciate you for doing that. If you're hanging out like Lonnie or Peanut Butter Posse or Bleed Blue, who hopped in a little bit ago, our friend Mr. Brooks in the chat, Michael Hoochie, of course, over there as well, hanging out. Make sure you hop in with the cast of characters in the live chat. And if you're not watching live, if you happen to be watching later, make sure you get in the comment section and let us know what's up as well. We know the SEC loves their basketball. It's not just a football conference. The SEC basketball fans are just as passionate. So let's hear from you in the live chat, in the comments. And let's hear from you by pushing those like and subscribe buttons as well. Go ahead and do your part there. Let's hop over to some portal news now. You knew it wasn't okay. It wasn't going to be long. We always cover the portal, and we're going to smack dab right in the middle of these player breakdowns. We're going to Portal Comeback. There we go. But I don't know if we should reward Peanut Butter Posse for this, like right out the gate. Okay, let's do it. A 5-pack of Kentucky players transferring in. That's right. It's Kentucky season, at least in this part of Portal Combat. And we're going to give you a 5-pack, and a 5-pack that other SEC fans, cover your eyes and cover your ears, because this is an impressive one for Sure. Lamont Butler, Kirk Kriisa, Jackson Robinson, Andrew Carr, Amari Williams, all double-digit scorers, everybody getting big-time boards, everybody, Butler and Kriisa both distribute the ball. Williams is the big-time defender down low, basically a double-double for you every night. Jackson Robinson obviously coming over following Coach Pope from BYU to Kentucky. And what can you say? He did the thing. He went out and he hauled in the top-ranked transfer class. And we love a 5-pack around here, so we just wanted to choose 5 here for Kentucky. But this group, Mike, it feels like these are the right 5 to really dive a little bit deeper on.
Yeah, and I mean, broken drum from one and done if you've obviously been following, but the year starts and ends with that point guard position. With the topic of the flavor of the year for Kentucky. Butler and Kriisa, we've talked about it, both capable. Who's going to get the starting nod? Will they both play? Give yourself, two facilitators out there. We'll see what Pope's going to do here. I mean, Butler, it's not really a natural point, but you obviously get the defense with him. Kriisa's more of a natural point guard. He's more of a shoot-first point guard, but he has been a point guard on a number 1 and number 2 seed at Arizona. So just sometimes he gives you those head-scratching plays where you're not going to get that from Lamont Butler. Obviously, around those guys, you're going to have some really good players. Jackson Robinson obviously shined in Pope's offense last year. Most thought he would be a pro this past, off season, but with him, you're getting awesome length, scoring ability. Like, he's probably the guy I worry the least about as far as making a transition. You could probably put Carr in that mix too. Obviously an experienced stretch 4, really good season at Wake Forest last year. He should really feed off all the action in Pope's offense, kind of like Noah Waterman did last year, and I expect him to be very good this year. And then Amari Williams, one of the key pieces here, 3-time CAA Defensive Player of the Year, kind of like Janai Broome, playing like 25 minutes a game, very heavily involved offensively, and then obviously your defensive stalwart, but never really see him play 30, 35 minutes. I think the defense will translate on offense. Like, he's not going to be asked to do as much as he did at Drexel with all these guys and all this quality shooting and playmakers that you have out there. So he's not a 3-point threat, but Pope didn't really have that last year. Had Khalifa out there, a better facilitator, but you're going to get a much better defender in Williams here. So if Williams is able to make the transition to the SEC, like, the upside of Kentucky is definitely going to rise. And man, there's so many other pieces to this team, but the variance of things that could happen, fit is a little bit of a question mark. Do you have too many mouths to feed? Like, all those questions are going to answer itself. And this is a much different looking Kentucky team because we're used to Calipari and all the 5-star freshmen. Now we basically have guys that 4 years in, 5 years in, have been starters all over the place. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting follow for sure.
Peanut Butter Posse saying from a freshman perspective to watch out for Colin Chandler. Travis Perry is also somebody that he's high on. Again,
who are you taking off the floor? And
thank you very much.
Really gonna be a thing.
Like, it's going to take some injuries probably that you don't want to see. Like, if Colin Chandler is doing big things for Kentucky this year, somebody on this picture is probably not in the lineup right now, and that's not necessarily something that you want to see. But maybe we'll see it early. Maybe we'll see Coach Pope get him a little bit of run early on in the year in some of these blowout games that, if you're a Kentucky fan, hopefully you see, obviously. But yeah, good stuff there for Kentucky. We're gonna talk Kentucky all year long. SEC people, follow us, subscribe. Like, we talk a lot of SEC basketball. Peanut Butter Posse can back us up on that. In the middle of the season, we're going to be covering it all season long, postseason. We talk SEC, so make sure that you follow us right now. And we're going to hop right over to another SEC team that's, speaking of living in the transfer portal, Arkansas, before it was Big Blue Bound, and now it's Hogs Portal Hall. Suey Pig indeed. John L. Davis, Jonas Adu, DJ Wagner, Edu Thiero, and Zvonimir Ivisic. Quite a fight.
Say that 5 times fast.
The Razorbacks. Zvonimir Ivisic. Two's enough. Thank you very much. Speaking of guys that were at Kentucky, DJ Wagner, Thiero, Avicic, all guys transferring from Kentucky to Arkansas, and also getting Adu from Kentucky, and then of course John L. Davis of FAU fame. All these guys, a bunch of guys that contributed at a very high level for their respective teams last year. Eric, Coach Calipari has sort of mixed up the roster a little bit with some old flavor to go along with some new flavor, mix it all together, a little gumbo, if you will, stir it up, heat it up. I don't know what's going to happen with Arkansas and these transfers.
Man, I love me some gumbo, and I love what Coach Cal has done with this roster. Starting off, good way to get the ball rolling. Go out and get the number one player on Money Mike's big board in terms of transfers this year, John L. Davis. Look, we know he's going to be a dominant force in this league. He's got the body of work to support that type of claim. Just expect him to be a featured player on this roster that is very talented top to bottom. Adu was a big get as a two-way within the conference as well, right? Put together an all-around year last season and showed he can be a force in big minutes, right? He and Big Z are going to battle it out for the starting 5 spot. Big Z also part of that conversation because he in his own right is a force to be reckoned with. Massive upside. Flashed it a bit last year, right? There were several games where he got in and got 11 minutes and just stuffed the stat sheet in those runs. There are other games where he's a little bit quieter, right? So he can shoot the three. He's a good facilitator. He can obviously block shots. The question really is like if this is the year where he makes that jump to where he's producing at that level consistently, the ceiling for this program is just an entirely different stratosphere than what we think it is sitting here a few weeks before the season, right? Then you've got the Kentucky kids that are familiar with the system that came over. Wagner, a high upside guard who didn't quite put it all together last season, but his pedigree is off the charts, right? You're getting recruited to then Kentucky by Coach Cal. You've obviously got some blue chip stock behind your name. And, Thiero is a bit more of a junkyard dog, right? He can really play multiple positions, underrated player whose contributions don't always show up on the box score. But, when we talk about these programs that just have an entirely new look roster, a guy like Thiero that can come in and bring some versatility can kind of, plug a number of different holes while you're figuring out the deployment that you want to roll out there is really, really crucial. So like I mentioned, very, very impressed with what Coach Cal has done in terms of putting the roster together in year one for Arkansas.
Yeah, not a bad way to start it off for sure. Yeah, not a surprise that you get the Kentucky guys to follow over. But again, Davis being that number one player, 2024 Kentucky without the two best players. Yeah, but I mean,
John L. Davis is pretty good.
But with Davis.
Pretty good. And Adu is nothing to sneeze at on both ends of the floor. So you got the big men there. I don't know how much Adu and Avicic will run at the same time, right? Like there's going to be a minutes thing there. I think there will be times where they'll run together, and we'll see how that affects them getting up and down the floor. But that's a great problem to have, quite honest.
No
Good
doubt.
stuff there for Arkansas, the old Razorbacks. A couple of teams there to focus on with some big portal hauls. Now a 4-pack, not a 5-pack. We like a 4-box every once in a while around here as well. We're going to start with Cliff Amorie, Sean Padula, Darlinstone Dubar, and Tremont Mark, of course, at Texas now. Oh, look at those graphics. Looks like a skybox card from 1991. I love that stuff. Very good stuff. Never mad at our graphics department, for sure. Graphics department, also known as Eric. Good stuff there. Let's start with the Amorie. What's terrifying for this Alabama team, guys, is that you add one of the top centers in the country and you put him next to Grant Nelson, right? And Nelson, we talked about it earlier. I alluded to it, Mike. You sort of followed up on it. Like, the ups and downs, the roller coaster of a ride that was Grant Nelson last season, you get a little more stability, you get a little more help around him there in the front court, and maybe he evens it out, and Amorie is just the guy to do it. That 5 spot always felt like the lone weak spot, just a revolving door of guys trying to get it done last year, Eric, and that didn't work. Cliff's going to give this team 25 to 28 minutes of elite rim protection and a low post presence. What more do you want? Sorry, not much else. And you don't need it in this conference. He's going to give that to him, and he's going to be a double-double a night in this conference for sure. Eric, what about Padula?
Yeah, I mean, Amorie comes in and plugs in a very specific gap in what they needed to take it to the next level. And I think a lot of the same can be said for Sean Padula, just an absolutely stellar pickup for Coach Beard. They gets the savvy veteran point guard who really did everything for Virginia Tech, right? Like, I know that, with this program that Chris Beard has built out, it's got some really good guards on the roster. Nobody's quite on the tier of Padula, right? He's a difference maker when it comes to his shooting, when it comes to his ability to distribute the ball. His efficiency levels against top-tier teams isn't exactly where you want it to be, but I think this is a better system for him. He's going to have better players around him, maybe develop a little bit more under Coach Beard. So very, very happy with the fit for Sean Padula and Ole Miss. Mike, let's head over to old Rocky Top. Let's check in on Mr. Dubar and see how he fits into the system.
Yeah, so this is a guy that started his career at Iowa State, but the last 3 years with Hofstra, so a fifth-year player. He's gotten better every year, though. He's 6'8", really versatile, able to take advantage of mismatches on a nightly basis. He's not going to be like your household name, but I think he's got a chance to be a real difference maker for Tennessee, especially with Dalton Connect out the door. Doesn't need to be Connect, but if you've ever watched this guy play, like, he's a lot of fun on the offensive end. Tremont Mark, we know Arkansas in its rotations last year were a mess. He made the surprising decision to leave that Houston program that just keeps doing its thing. He was a major contributor on a Sweet 16 team. He was a bench piece. Got 50% of the minutes on a Final Four team his freshman year. He's 6'6", much more of an isolation type player, really good from the mid-range. So it's going to be interesting to see if he's able to extend his playmaking and defense, 2 areas that he could obviously work on. But yeah, Rodney Terry, bringing in a lot of talent. So Tremont Mark, expecting him to be an impact transfer for Texas.
No doubt about it. Why is Padula sitting there on that throne there, Mike? I mean, is that what they did down in Ole Miss?
I guess so. King in the castle.
The king in the castle.
At least it's not one of those 360 cameras we got Brian Kelly doing.
Yeah, please don't.
Let's not do that. I'd rather have Sean Padula on a throne for sure. Yeah, lots of incoming transfers to this conference. There's some that we missed. Obviously, they're going to have some impact. We're hit on a couple of them, maybe in the tiers here as we break down every single team in a second. But how cute. Yeah. Thank you. Oh, you meant the throne. Oh, that's right. Yes, of course. Yeah. The throne. Before we get to those tiers, though, hit those like and subscribe buttons, turn on those notification bells. And we've got some freshmen that we've got to talk about. A pretty impressive incoming freshman class here that we wanted to break down. Oh, another 5-pack. We're good for it. The featured freshmen of the SEC, Boogie Fland, Tahad Pettiford, Asa Newell, Cam Scott, and Trey Johnson. Quite an array of talent here. Boogie Fland, you can't talk Calipari teams without talking 5-star freshmen. You touched on it earlier, Mike. We couldn't even get all the way to this part of the show without mentioning that Calipari likes to have a bunch of 5-star freshmen on his teams. And what do you know? It's Boogie Fland. He stands out, really. A guy that can make an impact in the backcourt. Got that skill on offense that you want to see that's going to translate pretty much immediately. You feel like just watching him get after it, you feel like it's going to happen. And the aggressiveness on defense is what you need to see. You can teach the little things here and there, but you can't teach that want to on the defensive end, and you see that in Flynn for sure. Look for him to be a key factor as the season rolls along for Woo Pig Suey. Indeed. Mike Pettiford, Auburn's gonna they're gonna have to try to find some room for him, but he's way too talented not to see the floor.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be another massive rotation, probably 11, maybe 12 guys hitting the floor every single night for Auburn. But Pettiford, really the only true backup point guard that they have. So I feel confident he can carve out, a little bit of a role here. We'll see if maybe they slide over some of their off-ball guards to maybe do a little more ball handling duty. But 24/7 had Pettiford listed as Auburn's 5th highest recruit ever. So we know the talent's there. How much of it we'll see is a question mark. Aiden Holloway was there last year. He was a 5-star, ends up transferring to Alabama. We'll see. Is playing time going to be an issue? Is the winning going to balance it out? Is his role going to, obviously keep him there? Is he a one-and-done guy that just, gets out there and you have to play him 25 minutes? We'll see. The range of outcomes for this kid, obviously all over the place, but he's got his opportunity to push his way into a big role this season. Austin Newell, he's a promising forward with elite athleticism. It was cool watching him this offseason. It was reported that he dropped 20 points and 5 rebounds in their exhibition game the other night. Just kind of reminds me of a better offensive version of Dylan Mitchell, who's now at Cincinnati. So it's going to be hard for the Bulldogs to obviously keep this kid off the floor. Eric, you got a couple of dudes here. Both were committed at Texas at one point. But, what do you got on Cam Scott here and Trey Johnson?
Yeah, Cam Scott, a long-time Texas commit, and at the last minute, Remix decides to stay home and heads to South Carolina for the Gamecocks. They lost a lot of talent last year, so Scott will have an opportunity pretty early on in the season to make an impact and to make himself known for this program. And then Trey Johnson, right? The Longhorns were able to hang on to this sharp shooting wing, considered one of the best outside shooters in high school last year. He's 6'6", a consensus top 8, top 10 kind of guy in terms of the high school ranks. Scoring certainly won't be a problem for the youngster as he transitions up to the collegiate level.
Shouldn't be a problem. Shooters shoot for sure. Shooters shoot. Trey Johnson's one of those shooters. Boogie Fland, Tahad Pettiford, Asa Newell, and Cam Scott rounding out our featured freshmen. And speaking of Cam, our guy C. Thuggin in the live chat. What's up?
C.T. Huggin.
27% Chris Godwin in your best ball leagues.
Time for CBB.
Time for CBB, and we're glad you're here hanging out with us.
Come on home.
One of the OGs in the chat, our guy C. Thuggin, CT Huggin, Cam, a man of many names, but excellent live chatter is one of them as well. Flan getting 30 minutes, whether it's best for the team or not.
That's not happening. Okay.
Man, we should pull that graphic up again and talk about where those minutes are coming from, right?
Yeah, that ain't happening, but I see where he's going with it. Yeah, DJ Wagner's going to get a lot. Him and John L. Davis are going to play heavy minutes in that backcourt. But I mean, you got Carter Knox there too. He's a wing 5-star, and you have Billy Richmond, who's another wing guard, a 5-star. So I don't see any way that these freshmen are going to carve out 30-minute roles. But you never know. I mean, what if he absolutely dominated this offseason in camp? I don't really see it, because you have DJ Wagner, who knows Calipari's system, coming from Kentucky, and then you have John L. Davis, who isn't going to leave the floor. He's going to play 36 minutes a night, so tough there.
Is John L. Davis underappreciated across around the country right now?
It feels like the shine maybe wore off after the Final Four season, right? Like, because he was the top dog there. Doesn't go to the NBA, comes back. They made the tournament. They beat a lot of good teams. The Arizona game comes to mind early in the season. They get an 8 seed, have, 9 seed, and then they end up, out in the first. So, yeah, I think so, man. Like, I'm surprised he's not in the NBA. So, obviously, there's probably an NIL deal
for
there,
a lot
too.
of the FAU
guys
a
lot of them,
last year, right? Like, there was
Boyd.
so much hype around this program after that Final Four run, their ability to keep all of that team together. and then they just kind of went out with a whimper last year, right? So I think some of the shine has come off their name.
Peanut Butter hit it though. I mean, NIL, like, why would you go be a late first? Probably an early second is what Davis would be, right? But why not make 1.5 or get a couple of guys that we know are making $2 million, Ray Osobor and Coleman Hawkins. I mean, who's to know what deals we don't know about for sure? So
it all plays a part in it right now. We have to weigh every single one of those options as being on the table, and it makes a lot of sense. Good stuff there, Peanut Butter Posse. Look at you contributing productively to the conversation. We definitely appreciate that, as always. And good to see Cam as well. And it's good to see that it's time for the old tiers section. Woohoo! That's right. It's time for the tiers. And no, not the tears that Mizzou fans cried after every single game last year. Not those kind of tiers. These are the high, mid, and low tiers of the SEC, and where we feel like each team will end up. These are not in any particular order. These are tiers. These are the teams that we feel like will compete up at the top for the regular season championship. These are the teams in the mid that will sort of just be the night in and night out grinders that maybe will jump up and have a say in who wins this conference. And then the lower tiers, the teams in the bottom, in the foundation, if you will, trying to take a few steps forward for sure. So I'm going to start here because I have the microphone and you will listen to every word that I have to say.
That's right. We will,
I'm going to start with Alabama, 13-5 in the conference play last season with the duo of Sears and Nelson back. We didn't even really talk about Wrightsell and Stevenson very much. So, I mean, Big Cliff, man, in that center spot. They really have a talented freshman class coming in as well. Transferred yards, Houston Millette coming in from Pepperdine, Chris Youngblood coming in from South Florida, Aiden Holloway from Auburn, the former five-star guy in 23, if you recognize that name. Didn't, 7 points at Auburn, didn't jump off the page, but the pedigree is there for sure. We have Alabama as the best team in the country in our offseason power rankings here on the show. There's not a chance they're not in the high tier. I'm starting with the positivity
so low.
Today, baby. Yeah, really going out on the limb here and putting Alabama up in the high tier. So I'm going to pass it over to you here, Mike. A little bit tougher, perhaps, of a decision to make with Arkansas. Obviously, a new look team, a whole lot of new going on there.
Yeah.
What do you think about Arkansas?
A whole lot of new, a whole lot of upside. They were 6-12 last year. Obviously, why the changes are made, and starts with Davis and Adu. I mean, we know the talent. We talked about the Kentucky guys coming over with Calipari, but also there's forward Trevon Brazell, 8.5 points, 6 boards last year. I think he could be an X factor, and of course, these 5-star freshmen that we've been talking about, just based on pure upside. I think this is a team that we have to put in the high tier based on upside. Now, we know that there were basically 5 teams within one game to win this conference last year. So I feel like the high tier, we're probably going to get, 5 or 6 teams probably up here because I don't think anyone's really separated. Obviously, other than Alabama, but even then, you're having to play some really, really good teams night in and night out. It's just really tough to try to run away with this conference. And then Auburn, 13-5 last year, arguably have the top returning big man in the country, and Janai Broom. Moore's back, Cardwell's back, Jones, Johnson, Baker, Mazzara, they're all back. They're probably hungry after that loss to Yale. Coach Pearl knows what he's doing. The Furman transfer guard is going to be huge for them. JP Pegues, 18 points, 5 assists last year. He's going to have a huge role. I talked about Pettiford, having to be a backup point guard. Well, I can see Pegues carving out a pretty big role as the lead guard there. And then, we'll see. They picked up Miles Kelly, who we know from DFS, Georgia Tech, 14 points per game, was kind of all over the place, a really streaky shooter. But, could he carve out a nice little 15-minute role, be more efficient? I think so. So this program, obviously a big-time ceiling. We'll go ahead and put old Auburn up there in the high tier as well, Eric. So 3 in the high tier to start. I'm assuming we got some mid-low action coming. What you got?
Yeah, they say to assume makes an ass out of you and me. Florida is up next off of an 11-7 campaign. We talked right off the top about Clayton and Richard returning. Generally speaking, if we're spotlighting a couple of your players, we're pretty bullish on your program, right? Not only do they have those two guys coming back, they also brought in the stud from FAU, Elijah Martin. He gave them 13 points last year. And this backcourt is pretty scary, right? They've got a bit more of a platoon approach in terms of their front court, right? A sort of a plethora of bigs out there. They are dealing with Micah Handlockton missing the entirety of this upcoming season after that gruesome injury at the very end of the year last year. But, Coach Golden, he can really get things going offensively. It'll really be up to, this platoon of bigs to kind of bring the defensive side if they can. This team has a ton of upside. I tend to think that they will. So we'll let the good times roll. I'll slot Florida up top in the high tier. Mike,
look at it. Oh no,
send
Peanut
up.
Butter Posse. Peanut Butter Posse saying they're eating the cats. They're eating the cats. They are. The Gators are still eating them. They're eating all the cats. Okay, I had to get it in. Sorry,
hopefully they're not eating the dogs. Mama Rock's Georgia Bulldogs. Mike, send up the bat signal. See if Mama Rocks can pop into the live chat. Tell us what we need to know about the dogs this year.
So I'm a little torn on the dogs here. 6-12 last year. Like Silas DeMary and Blue Cane are back. They're sophomores. They flashed a little bit last year. I initially had them in the low tier, but just seeing what Austin Newell's look like this offseason, if he is going to pop off, this is going to give them a little more juice here. Tyron Lawrence, if he can get back to form, 14 points per game, obviously not bad, but just up and down roller coaster type of year last year. Like if he hits his ceiling, that can get them into the mid. Justin Abson is a great defensive player out of Appalachian State, 8 points per game, 3 block shots per game. So these guys, they have the ability to do it. My gut tells me the low tier. I think they can do enough if these guys hit ceilings to get 10 wins, 9, 10, 11 wins in this conference. So that right there is gonna put them into the mid. But I'm not feeling too confident about it. But that's kind of a wait and see, and we'll take a look in the middle of the year and see where we're at.
Amazing. Nobody in the low tier yet. I mean, I get it with these teams, right? Like, and the low tier teams are coming, but even Georgia right there in the old mid tier, looking like they're going to take a step forward this season. And speaking of taking steps, Peanut Butter Posse having self-awareness in the live chat.
Avert your eyes.
To look away. Avert your eyes. Do you? Should you look away? Should you avert your eyes, my good friend? Coach Pope has a veteran team. He brought it in. We talked about the transfer portal earlier. There's more guys to it than that. I mean, you could start with Butler, Creasa, Robinson, Carr, and Williams, right? That's just a part of the impressive portal haul. Dayton Ween, Kobe Brea, 11 points per game, 50% from 3. That's okay. He's a weapon. He can shoot it basically when he steps into the gym. And then I wouldn't sleep on former Oklahoma guard Otega Owe, who has two-way abilities, averaged 11 points last season. I mean, yeah, the point guard concerns linger. You can tell me all you want that you know who's going to play point guard. We don't know. But it's too talented. And I like Coach Pope way too much to put him anywhere other than the high tier. Put him in the top.
Where it is.
Right there. All the way to the top. I am not bringing any negativity right now with Coach Pope and the Wildcats. I want to see it. No. No trash being thrown. You don't have to do it.
You don't want to get your tickets pulled out, okay?
$250,000 fine would come your way, apparently, or our way, actually. And I'm sure the FCC and the airwaves, the YouTube airwaves, would fine us for that if you threw your plastic bottles and maybe your takeout plastic that you saved. So no, you do not need to get this call overturned. Kentucky's going to be in the high tier. You don't need to make a phone call.
Yeah, we made the right call the first time, so you don't have to do that.
First time. Exactly. The call was made correctly the first time. Kentucky in the high tier. But, Mike, how to say it here. Not so much good news here for LSU this season.
Yeah, I mean 9-9 last year, which actually pretty solid. When it comes to like who's gonna contribute this year, like a lot of new faces. I mean, we got Cam Carter from Kansas State comes over 14.5 points. Like he's been a solid player in the Big 12. We'll see. I know Jordan Sears, I mean, he scored a ton of points at the mid-major level from Tennessee Martin, 20.5 points, 4.5 assists, 43% from three. Like he's going to need to bring some of that juice that he had, hopefully to translate to the SEC. I'm still waiting for the Terrell Ward breakout. Guy just has a ton of talent. He just hasn't put it all together. So I just don't know if they have enough on both ends nightly and consistently to be competitive in this league here. So, yeah, I mean, unfortunately, we've pretty much stacked the top of this conference, so we know these are coming here, and we'll put LSU down there in the low tier.
Hey, what about? I mean, what's it going to take for Sears? Is there a scoring level that you could see Sears getting to that could sort of help LSU to get over that hump? I mean, they're bringing him in because he can score. Obviously, right? Is 15 points a night realistic for Jordan Sears? Is 13
I know they would take 15, and that would that would maybe make Georgia fans a little bit scary, pulling them down probably to the low tier, and LSU maybe moving up to the mid tier. But yeah, you're probably right there with it. I mean, Cam Carter's been a productive player in the Big 12, 14.5 points. To ask Jordan Sears to score 15. I think he could maybe do it. He's going to be on better talent, right? But obviously the defenses are going to be much tougher. So we'll see. We'll see if he can. We just never know, right? With these mid-major guys, like going up and down, it's so crazy and so sporadic. Those are the things that I like to watch the first 10 games of the year.
You get a feel for it really quickly,
I get it quickly.
whether or not that skill set translates, because it doesn't have to necessarily equal success immediately. Like you don't need Jordan Sears to come out and score 20 points a few times in the first 8 or 10 games. You just need to see the skill set on the court and see it in action and see, is it a fit? Is
efficiently
it smooth?
too?
Is it forced? Like is he doing all the little things? Is he having to play over his skis to get it done?
Right.
And that's what you want to see, of course. And what I want to see is Cam hopping in the comment section saying Mississippi State is the best sleeper in the conference. One of their bigs needs to step up, but have some solid pieces in that mid tier. Okay, Eric, Mississippi State here. Cam is a little bullish on them as the best sleeper in the conference, in his opinion. How are you feeling about Mississippi State?
Yeah, I don't mind the call. I don't know if I'm quite as bullish as Cam is, right? But we talked about Josh Hubbard earlier in the show, just an absolute monster of a freshman season. Obviously, he's back. Another year under his belt will theoretically point his arrow even higher. But you're also, we're talking about some of the ads that this team has made. They've got defensive savant forward Cam Matthews chipped in 9 points, 7 rebounds, and 2 steals per game. He is back. Went out and brought in one of our favorites, Riley Kugel from Florida, guy that would get white hot for 1, 2, 3 games and then disappear for a while and then do it again like a month later. So certainly has flashed, right? He's got some upside. If he can tap into that upside nightly, I think that will very much so make Cam's prediction more likely to come to fruition. I mean, this team is always going to be sound defensively under Coach Jans, right? Keyshawn Murphy is a forward that they could really take a step up to help this team after a good freshman year. Maybe that is the name for you to watch, Cam, in terms of someone in the front court that can, take that step forward. But based on what we see right now, I think Mississippi State should fall into the mid-tier, but things break right. They can make us eat those words pretty easily. A team, unfortunately, that I cannot say that about. Look, if you're the butt of our tiers joke heading into this segment, things didn't go well for you last year, specifically for Missouri, to the tune of an 0-18 record in conference play. I mean, it was a tremendous first year for Coach Dennis Gates, And then he just kind of gave it all back last year. Almost a brand new roster for him. Tamar Bates is a sharpshooter on the wing, right? He's shooting almost 40% from downtown. He's returning after giving them 13.5 points last year. Brought in some guys from the portal that have some talent. Mark Mitchell's coming over from Duke, so the pedigree's there. In his last season with the Blue Devils, 11.5 points, 6 boards per game can be a force down low. Iowa guard Tony Perkins checks in. He's coming in off of a career year. It's just tough to envision like a full turnaround to where this team is rattling off, 9, 8, maybe even 7 wins. Like a lot of things got to break right for them to get to that point. I think they're more in that kind of 5-6 win territory, which by last year's standards, a marked improvement, but not enough to move them out of the low tier. So Missouri have added some talent, but we want to see it before we move them out of that foundation range.
But what about the defensive side of the ball for Missouri, Mike? Like, I mean, that's where the issues lie here. But is there a path for them to sort of even things out? Obviously, 6 wins would be a big improvement. You would take that at this point and sort of take that as a step forward in the right direction. But is there a path for this team to get it done on the defensive end to take a bigger step forward this year?
I mean, it's tough because they're going to play. It feels like they're going to play pretty small. Josh Gray's coming over from South Carolina. His defensive metrics last year were borderline elite, but he only played 10 minutes a game. So, that's not really a guy that I trust. He's going to all of a sudden play 25 minutes a game. He's not going to really give you anything offensively either. It's going to be tough because they're going to have to play Mark Mitchell, maybe at the 5 sometimes. He's mostly going to be a 4, and they're going to play small. Bates. They're going to Quest Work comes over from Northern Kentucky. He averaged 20 points per game. Tony Perkins, obviously a big guard, but still like they're better players. Are guard oriented, and you probably need something from like Peyton Marshall or Trent Burns or 4-star, big men. They get something out of those guys defensively. Even if it's 15 to 18 minutes with the Josh Gray, potentially piece that that 5 spot together. Yeah, could I see 7 to 8 wins? It's just that the shooting is going to be a problem with them. Like Tamar Bates is a really good shooter, but outside of that, they don't have anybody that really shot over 30% from 3 last year other than Jacob Cruz, who's another one of those OVC players coming over from Tennessee Martin, 19-8 at the forward position. We'll see if his game translates. He's actually projects as one of the worst defensive players on the roster, though, based on last year's metrics, though. So Peter Butter Posse saying 3 wins from Mizzou. I think they get to 4 or 5 because those are some big names. Tony Perkins, Mark Mitchell. It's not like they don't have talent to get down some wins, but you're like, it's just going to be tough nightly defensively to not give up, a ton of points. So, yeah, could I see 6-7 wins? Absolutely.
Wanted to make sure we spent a little bit of time on Missouri here because, it's easy to overlook them after going 0-18, 0 spot, a goose egg in the win column. That's going to improve, and they're going to be competitive this year on a nightly basis. They're probably going to beat a couple of teams that they shouldn't beat as well, just based off of talent alone, and somebody's going to overlook them. So, not a lot of people are spending this much time on Mizzou. We are. And I feel like that they're going to surprise a couple of people and jump up and get a couple of key wins in this conference. Somebody who I don't feel like will get that many wins in the conference will be Oklahoma. It's only a matter of time for Coach Porter up in Norman. You heard the rumblings this offseason. The seat is warm, to say the least. Porter Mosier, obviously, trying to figure things out, trying to balance everything else going on up there with just not seeing the results that they want. Jalen Moore is back, 11 points, 6.5 boards. But the Sooners are going to rely on a bunch of transfers. Duke Miles coming in from High Point. Obviously, we think very highly of High Point. A lot of people think very highly of High Point and what they've done there. A nice addition for Oklahoma. I don't know if that 17.5 points and 3 assists per game is going to translate to the SEC. Just like I don't see Oklahoma being competitive with many of the other pieces on this roster either. So,
such a weird thing to say, but yeah, I mean,
it does feel weird, right? What's up with Porter Mosier?
I don't know, man. Doesn't seem like he wants to be there. That's been the rumors for for a while. I don't know. Like you look at this
so
roster and it's, bleh. I mean,
I feel like I'm so familiar with him that I just called him Coach Porter earlier, like I'm on a first name basis with the guy.
You guys are buds.
Close personal friends, possibly, not really. But it just feels like if they start poorly for whatever reason,
it's gonna be weird.
It's going to be bad. It's not going to be great at all up there. Boomer Sooner in the low tier this year. Ole Miss, Mike, a head coach that we're familiar with around here along the I-35 corridor in Central Texas, a guy that I thought was going to be the coach to bring Texas out of the trophyless abyss that the Longhorns were in. Obviously, things happened that caused him to lose the job here and wind up at Ole Miss, entering year 2 now down there. And that's usually when you see the real Chris Beard impact being made.
Yeah, I mean, you got Morrell back. You got Jermaine Brakefield, who averaged 13 points, a really nice forward. Jalen Murray's back, 14 points per game. Like, you got a solid trio coming back. Transfer class is really good. Talked about Padula. UNC Greensboro forward, Michael Brown-Jones. We've talked about him this offseason, 19 points per game, 7.5 boards. I like Malik Diaz's athleticism from Belmont coming in, super versatile, 17.6 boards. This is an offense that should be really good, which is really weird to say about a Chris Beard team. I have some worries defensively. Like, I don't know how he gets stops, but because it's Chris Beard, I'm willing to say that it's going to be a higher floor defensively, even though last year it wasn't pretty at times. So I'll put Ole Miss in the old mid there. And then South Carolina, 13-5, like Coach Paris, like the awesome year for Lamont Paris. Kind of a bummer that Michi Johnson decides to go back to Ohio State. But Colin Murray-Boyles is back. He was one of the best freshmen in the country last year. You got Cam Scott coming in as an incoming freshman. But a lot of the pieces, like, it was Michi time, and Wright, Studi, Davis, like they're all just kind of role players. Like, can one of those guys take their game to the next level? I mean, I'm not really banking on it. So I don't know that this team has the goods for a repeat. I actually kind of see a flip-flop of record here, unfortunately, at 5-13. So I'm going to slot South Carolina down here in the low. This roster is there's not much from the portal, guys. I mean, show me where it's at, and it's not pretty. So we'll see. I mean, he proved us all wrong last year, so we'll see what Coach Paris has for the encore here.
Eric, Tennessee, a team that we joked last year. Basically, you play them and it's first to 50 on a night in and night out basis, but it's a solid program. Obviously, the coaching that you're going to get there on a night in and night out basis. Coach Barnes did it here. We talk about Chris Beard. Obviously, Rick Barnes did it here in Austin for a lot longer and had a lot of success here. He's finding that same success at Tennessee. But what's different this time around, Eric, is that the pace of play, rocket ship to the moon, and it made a difference.
Yeah, it did, right? The first to 50 was kind of the joke we were hitting them with a couple seasons ago, and Rick Barnes made us eat it last year. He picked up the pace, 80th in the country, like you mentioned, got things rolling on the offensive side.
Where'd he go?
Hey, listen, I'll talk about Tennessee any day of the week. Kai Ziegler's an absolute monster. We know they lost Dalton Connect, but Ziegler's going to pick up a lot of the slack there. And luckily, the portal was friendly to them. We didn't talk about Chaz Lanier earlier, coming in from Northern Florida, where he averaged 20 points a game, 44% from beyond the arc. They also landed Ohio State shot blocker Felix Okpara, 6.6 boards, 2.5 blocks per game last year to anchor the defense. And then guard Cameron Carr, the breakout candidate. Jordan Gainey flashed at times off the bench. Coach Barnes knows how to build a program. And this roster, Mike, big time upside once again.
Every year.
We're going to put them in the high tier once we get those graphics back on the screen. Why don't you go ahead? Oh, there we go. We got him. Let's put it right back over there. Good stuff there. And there he is.
He's back
in the flesh. He's
They're
back.
The resident Texas, what do we call him? What do you call yourself, Eric? The neutral.
Oh yeah, the neutral observer, the objective opinion on the Texas Longhorns.
On the Longhorns, indeed. Too bad I'm not going to let you talk about them because I'm taking Texas. The mystery squad in the conference. A lot of new faces. Marcus, we talked about Mark earlier. He's joined by Kansas State forward Arthur Kaluma. That's just weird to me to talk about Kaluma wearing burnt orange. Oregon State guard Jordan Pope is coming over as well. Kaluma and Pope both averaged 15, 17 points per game. I mean, those are big names, but more exciting as far as fit could be the Indiana State duo of Julian Larry and Jason Kent. Larry averaged 11 points and 5 assists per game last season as a rim pressure guard. A little bit of that playmaking ability, obviously, that you want to see. And Kent is a stretch forward, averaged 13.5 points, 8 boards, and 37% from beyond the arc. Super fresh Trey Johnson is going to bring some scoring. And then Caden Shedrick is he's back after an up-and-down season. So not a high-tier team in the SEC. For me, I'm a well-known Rodney Terry. I don't want to say I'm anti-Rodney Terry, but I'm definitely not pro Rodney Terry, if you would have to say it that way. So put him in the mid-tier for now. Slot him in, Eric, right there in the mid. Those Horns can hold up the Gators and Kentucky right there. And that's about where I feel like they're going to fall. Maybe 9 to 10 wins in the conference this year, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, the range of outcomes for Texas is really solely based on how Terry deploys. I mean, there's talent. It's just, can you make, it's like Indiana. There's talent. Can you put the pieces together to make it fit? There's, 4 or 5 Power 5 teams you can really say that about for sure. The Aggies here, 9-9 last year. We know Wade Taylor, obviously a baller. Manny Obaseki really, really exploded down the stretch. We were trying to figure out why this guy wasn't playing. Man, he was out there, looking like an all-league type player toward the end of the year. You have Anderson Garcia, Henry Coleman. They're both back in the front court. The key guy, though, it's Zurich Phelps, 15 points per game for SMU. My problem with this team is you kind of have the same thing that you had last year with Radford. Tyrese Radford couldn't shoot threes. Zurich Phelps, he has range, but not a consistent three-point shooter, and neither is Wade Taylor. These guys, they just can't shoot it consistently from three. If they're able to do that, that ceiling really opens up for this squad because they got a lot of experience. So, the Aggies, I think they'll win their fair share of games, but I got to stick with them in the mid here for sure.
That makes sense. I definitely could see that being the case. I feel like A&M and Texas are going to have very similar type seasons this year, just hanging out, winning some games, losing
right.
a couple that they shouldn't, winning a couple that maybe they should and shouldn't. You know what I mean? They're going to have similar seasons. And we'll see if Obaseki can handle that wear and tear of the entire grind of a season if he's getting that usage from the start. That's something to pay attention to for sure. Eric, finish us off here with Vanderbilt.
Yeah, Vanderbilt put up a 4-14 effort last year, and that is the type of conference record that will get your coach fired. So like we talked about off the top, Vanderbilt bid adieu to Coach Stack. So we've got Coach Byington coming in this year, at least for his first offseason. I feel like he did pretty well, right? He's certainly getting adjusted to the ranks of the head man here in the SEC, but he goes out and he snipes Michigan State guard AJ Hoggard, right? A top 75 type of transfer, gave them 10.5 points and 5 rebounds per game last year. We also like the scoring ability that he brings in from North Texas by way of transfer guard Jason Edwards, player that scored 19 points for North Texas last season. The real question around this program, right? Where's the size? Where's the defense? That's probably just the first of a long list of question marks for me. So anytime that's the case, I will reluctantly put them in the low tier, and I will wait for them to show me they can answer those questions before we move them up.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, like, show me, right? And that's tough. Stack,
Just a hard place to win at, man.
you could count
Yeah.
on maybe one hand coaches that could have found a way to win over there in that tenure with Stack. I don't think any less of him as a coach
No, yeah.
after his run there, like at all. I just don't. And yeah. What about Pavia? Can he play point guard, Mike?
No, I think he's got to stick to the quarterback, bro.
What do you think? You don't think so?
Nah, I mean he's big enough to maybe play on the wing. Like we could play, like an undersized forward at 6. What is he, like 6'1"?
Don't think he could come over and run the point? You sure?
I mean, dude, if you had him and Hoggard, like that's a pretty big backcourt, like strong backcourt.
What do they have to lose at this point?
I mean,
try it out.
Try it out.
Why not? Give it a go.
I mean, dude, he's all about it, man. Like he's been living his moment, man. But we'll see this Saturday.
It's understandable. It's understandable. Miss Shine. We're not going to give. Yeah, why not? I love it. We're not going to give Vanderbilt too much shine, though, as you can see, as we're putting them as a team in the low tier.
Nice and tight right there in the tiers.
Look at that right there. Not flowing off the screen.
Wow.
We didn't have. I guess we didn't have 18 teams.
Yeah, 2 less makes it easier.
Almost. It does make it easier to fit in. Right there at the low tier, LSU, Mizzou, with some room to grow, Oklahoma, South Carolina, and Vanderbilt. Georgia, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Texas, and those fighting Texas Aggies right there in the old mid tier. And then up top, Alabama, Arkansas, Auburn, Florida, Kentucky, and Johnny K's Vols right there in the high tier. Good stuff there. Diego Football might catch the horns feeling sorry for themselves. Let's not go too far. We had a good show here, Peanut Butter Posse. Let's not go too far, okay, with all of that. But either way, we're really appreciative of everybody hanging out with us in the live chat. That's right. Even you, Peanut Butter Posse. Johnny K hopping in there last minute. C-Thug and our guy Cam in and out of the live chat as well. Lonnie dropping their flag saying UConn's going to three-peat. We definitely appreciate that. Bleed Blue dropping a line in to talk about Kentucky. Our guy, Mr. Brooks, G. Brooks, hanging out with us there. And then, of course, Mike Hoochie hanging out with us there for sure. Johnny, good to see you there. Good to see everybody.
It's not too late. It's not too late, Johnny.
Yeah, it's not too
Go
late.
rewatch the show, man.
At all. Go hang out.
Waiting for you in the playlist.
It's nice and warm.
Ooh, you already watched. Like that G-Town pick.
Oh, nice. There
I'm
we
going to
go.
wear that one.
It's not a bad one to wear. Why not? Why not? Ladies and gents, broskies and broskets, that is the SEC. That's not even a nutshell. That's like a pecan tree right there of knowledge, constantly growing. Its growth is what we're seeing in the SEC. Going to challenge for the top conference in all the land this season. We can't wait to watch SEC basketball. We can't wait to talk about it with you as well. So make sure that you hit those like and subscribe buttons. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss every time that we go live, post something, whatever it is. You want to be following us, especially as the season gets going, the DFS streets that we like to roam in. We're going to be making some money this year, y'all. I promise you.
No doubt.
The breadheads will be out in full effect with the OG Money Mike over there, El Capitan himself. Our guy Eric the Blue pushing the buttons, doing the graphics, and doing everything else under the sun that our guy Napesy Hustle isn't doing. Our guy Chris behind the scenes, he don't want to do your dirty work no more. I call him Steely Dan because he does the dirty work, and we appreciate him for sure. It is weird to see Oklahoma in there, but it's not weird to see all of y'all in the live chat. It is weird, though, that we're already almost through all the conference previews. The Big 12 on deck, and that's it. Next Sunday, we will be back live October 27th. Make sure to set your calendars, set your sundials, put your set your phone alarm to be ready. The notification bells on YouTube, of course, is the best way to make sure that you're around for that. Follow us on X, Instagram, and TikTok at One and Done CBB, so you don't miss anything that we're doing. At MC Holland 34, at Fantasy Nav, at The Real Napier, and then of course I am at Dr. William Cannon over there in Elon's hellhole. Make sure you tell somebody you love them, but most importantly, take care of yourself. I'm the JAYHEINRICH. Come again. Peace.
Thanks for stopping by the office. Get your fantasy prescription by subscribing to the channel and checking out drroto.com. And until the next visit, be well and take care.